Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. My name is Gab, and I am here with my cousin and co-host,
Dylan.
And today, we are discussing a movie that I have nominated as a movie to watch before you die. But Dylan, first, tell them why.
Why?
Just why?
Tell them why you've nominated this movie?
Just why?
I guess Gab likes this movie.
Why?
Yeah. Why does Gab like this movie? I guess maybe she's a fan of Steve Martin or something. I don't know.
Why?
You're listening to us, which is what I presume what Gab meant. Because we have over a year's worth of podcasting experience by this point. We both have film degrees from school, which is kind of a massive deal. And also,
Huge.
We watch a fuck ton of movies. Like, hopefully you do too. And you want to hear people who love movies talk about them.
Yeah, that's about the gist of it. So without further ado, today we are discussing the 1979?
Damn straight.
1979 classic comedy starring the one and only Steve Martin, The Jerk. Dylan, tell him what it's about.
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
The Jerk is very similar, and I've never realized this before, to a lot of movies that come out today, where it is sort of like the closest example I can give, and I thought this while watching it, is Borat. And it's that type of comedy where it's like you have the thinnest of framing devices for a plot, and then you just sort of have a lead actor who is like, and I'm just going to do like very funny things in between that are loosely connected to the plot. So basically we see in the very beginning, Steve Martin, who plays Navin Johnson, is down on his luck. He is not a bum. He's a jerk. And he's telling us the story of how he became that way and his journey from starting as a, quote, poor black child in Mississippi to the power and wealth, to riches, to the love of a good woman, and how he ends up back where he started.
Okay, that was kind of a long-winded explanation, but let's see how it stacks up to IMDb.
I thought I did okay. IMDb plot summary. A simple-minded, sheltered country boy suddenly decides to leave his family home to experience life in the big city, where his naivete is both his best friend and his worst enemy.
That was actually kind of long-winded too, IMDb.
Do you want to hear some taglines?
Yes, I do.
Two of them are kind of the same, so do with that what you will. From rags to riches, ... to rags.
Okay.
A rags to riches to rags story.
Oh, okay.
I kind of like that one better rather than like taglines shouldn't use ellipses. I feel like it's like this cheat code that you've wanted to do more than it's ever going to do.
Yeah, I agree.
And last one, he was a poor black sharecropper's son who never dreamed he was adopted.
You know, I like that because I think that's a very funny portion of the movie, but I don't think it's enough of the movie for it to be a tagline. You know what I mean?
I think it would be funny on the poster when you see Steve Martin as the star of the movie, and that's the tagline, that it's like he never dreamed he was adopted. And I guess it's more of a thing to get into when we get into opinion time, but I do think from those taglines and from like my memory of seeing this movie as a kid, I thought that was much more important than it is. It's again just sort of like it's two jokes that are part of that framing device. Literally, him being born as a black boy is a joke like twice in the movie. So I thought it was like a more massive thing, that it was going to be one of those things like you couldn't make this movie today type of thing. And it's like, no, not really. That's not like a massive important part of the movie.
I genuinely think there's only one part of this movie that you couldn't do today.
Well, do you want to tell me now, or should I wait until opinion time to hear about this?
No, we can wait until opinion time. But I'm just saying, like, I agree with you. I was going into it expecting it to be a very like, oh, this didn't age well kind of thing. But no, I think it aged fine.
Yeah, much better than I expected it to. But before we get into that, Gab, do you want to tell me a little bit more about the movie, and then we'll get into our opinions?
Absolutely. So this is a very simple movie. This is a movie starring Steve Martin, who we all are familiar with. White man, white hair. Who presents himself as growing up as a poor black child in Mississippi. He has no idea that he is not a member of his family until one day he realizes it. And I believe what really kind of indicates it to him is the idea that he can't find the rhythm in the music that they're all dancing to. And it's a very funny moment when he finds the rhythm to the music, but it's very like boring, sort of like jazz, like, no, I wouldn't even call it jazz music. Like
I definitely don't
It
think it is jazz. It's just some very boring old-timey music. I just think
kind of
it's
sounds
so
like
funny,
elevator
Gab.
music.
I'm totally picturing you describing to like a police sketch artist, Steve Martin. It'd just be like, white guy, white hair.
White guy, white hair, they all one you've seen them all. Um but he finds the rhythm to the music, and it's like very obviously like not at all like soulful, like it's just very boring elevator music, and he finds the rhythm and he decides he's going to leave and go see what else is out there in the world. And essentially he leaves his home, and he is just a moron. He's got no clue. He takes things very literally. He is working at a gas station, or honestly, he goes to a gas station to use the bathroom. He winds up moving into the gas station and working at the gas station. Then he meets a man of wealth. He helps him fix his glasses, and he finds out later that he invented unknowingly this unbelievable device that helps people's glasses stay on their face. And that earns him millions of dollars, more money than he could ever imagine. It earns him the love of a beautiful woman, or at least gives him the opportunity to meet a woman that he will end up loving. And eventually he loses it all when the device ends up making people go cross-eyed. He becomes he gets sued. He has to give away all of his money, which is a very funny scene where he writes checks to each individual plaintiff for the amount of like $1.09. And that's where all of his money goes. And he ends up, his wife leaves him. He ends up down on his luck. And then eventually his wife finds him, picks him up off the street, and takes him back home to Mississippi. It is a very, very, very simple plot. And I think it is just full of very slapstick style, silly jokes and callbacks throughout the movie that really just make it an easy watch, and just kind of giggly.
Wow, that was the most in-depth description I feel we've ever had on this podcast.
I just feel like there's not a lot to say.
Yeah. So with things that there are to say, should we get into our opinions?
Yeah, please.
In this critic's opinion,
that's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
Do you feel it's apt comparing to this to like a Borat, or there was a prank one with Eric Andre, I know, where it is just, I've never realized before how loose of a story it is. It's mostly just like they had a bunch of ideas for sketches and they needed something to connect it together.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think that it does. So I think the difference is that a movie like Borat is sort of like
ignoring the interaction,
it's a little bit
with
more
real
like
people.
Yeah, it's more like hidden camera-y-esque rather, versus this, which was obviously like just a narrative that was put together with a bunch of joke ideas. So everything is I don't want to say scripted, but everything is staged. Whereas a Borat is sort of like they're out in the real world, just kind of seeing how people react to that character. But I can see where you're going with it. I can see how it would maybe someday lead to the likes of films like that.
Because it's more about the character than it is about the actual story, I feel like. Where it feels like Steve Martin had this character from like his stand-up act, I assume, and was like, oh, I can definitely expand on this in some way. Or just came up with more jokes for that character.
Sure. Yeah. But I think what this film does really, really, really well is it feels a character like that could be very obvious. Like he's obviously dim-witted, he's obviously naive, and so where it almost seems like it's going to very obviously make a right-hand turn, it makes a left-hand turn. And it's he's still the character you know of him. He just makes these choices that are very funny, and you're kind of taken aback by them.
I will say, I think, and it's something that I love, is that as much as his life around him changes, his character never does. Never. And like there's one point towards the end where Marie says something like, what happened to the boy I knew? And I'm like, he's exactly the same. Yeah. Like I get that maybe they just need that for this scene so that he can have his moment where he goes, I don't need all this stuff. I just need this chair, this lamp, this, and my dog, that type of thing.
So I think he's drinking a lot. And I think that's kind of what she's alluding to. Like he's obviously getting drunk and he's miserable, and he is, not as optimistic and like sort of blindly happy as she knew him to be. So I think that kind of makes sense. Even though his character hasn't changed, he's definitely like in rare form at that moment. But I do think if we're in opinion time, right? We said that.
Oh yeah.
I think All I Need, that scene, is one of the best film scenes of all time, comedy wise. Where he's like, all I need is this ashtray. That's it. That's all I need.
And him walking with his pants down.
And the paddle game. Yep. And the chair. I don't need my dog. I think that is one of the best comedic scenes. And you know why? It's I can narrow it down to two moments in that scene. It's a beautiful buildup where he's like, I just need the ashtray and the paddleball game and the lamp and like all these silly things. And then he's about to walk out of the house and he goes, and that's all I need. I need this. And grabs the chair. And that moment of like, because he had previously been saying, all I need is this. That's all I need. And this. And that's all I need. And then for him to take that left-hand turn and go, oh, well, I need this is hilarious. And it's a chair. And then he's walking down the street. I'm sorry.
I like also when he is walking down the street with this stuff that they do turn it into a very sweet moment for that character, because he had said before that he was going to buy a thermos for Marie. I don't know why that was like the important thing, but it was a thermos.
Yeah.
And he sees a woman with a thermos and he trades all those things that were the only things he needed when he walked out of the house for that thermos, I guess, hoping to one day see Marie again.
Yeah. It's very sweet.
I have a hot take, I feel like, about the movie, which I don't know how hot it is, but I'll see by your reaction. But before I say my hot take, I'm going to say my favorite moment of this movie and my favorite, like, Steve Martin just making something work moment, much in the way that we talked last week about how Jack Black can just do things and he's funny because it's Jack Black. Steve Martin can just do something and it's funny because he's Steve Martin.
Yeah.
So it's the moment when, this is not the peak moment, this is just another moment, when Marie leaves him the first time and she leaves him the note, but the note gets wet when she leaves because he's in the bathtub and picks it up. And he's reading that note and he's going, I need to, and it's just the way that Steve Martin, it just holds on his face as he does that. And he does it so fucking well. That's just like, oh yeah, that's why this guy's like a comedy genius.
Yeah.
I think this movie peaks super early because I think when we get to the gas station, which is pretty early, all of the best stuff happens. And I don't think we ever get back to that apex.
Interesting. Are you referring to the gunshots?
That scene is great where he is getting shot at by, there's a man who is basically just put, Steve Martin exclaims, I'm in the phone book. My name's in print. I'm somebody. And then we cut to a man who points to a name on the phone book, which is his, and goes, I'm going to kill this bastard for no reason. And that is an iconic scene. It's definitely the most memorable scene of the movie. The cans getting shot and him going, that guy hates these cans. Get away from the cans. But it's everything that happens at the gas station. It's the guys who rob him is hysterical. It's him hooking their car up to the church, which is hysterical.
So good.
I think maybe my favorite moment is him meeting Stan Fox, and Stan Fox is going, damn this, damn that, damn these glasses. And Steve Martin going, I damn thee glasses. Like, it's just the sincerity with which he does it.
Yeah.
I just think that it's also, we lose the Jackie Mason character, Harry Tartanian or whatever his name is, the gas station owner, who is also fucking hysterical.
So good.
It's just the way that he says things makes them funny also. He just has such a delivery that it just works.
Yeah.
So that was my hot take.
I don't disagree with you because those are all really good moments. I think the only moment that I would say is as funny, if not funnier, is the That's All I Need scene. And you know what? I'll own that my dad and I have been quoting that scene. My dad made me watch this movie when I was like 7. And I think we've been quoting that scene ever since. Anytime one of us is like, all right, all I need is this, and that's all I need. Like, we do it. And so I don't know if maybe there's like an element of nostalgia that is making me feel like that is like an incredible scene, or if it truly is his delivery and his performance and the way that he differs the line without making it super repetitive, but also like clearly just calling back to his own joke.
I mean, I'm certain that nostalgia has a part in it, and I'm not at all saying that that is not a funny moment, because it is. I just think that it's because when he is at the gas station, you have several funny moments back to back to back to back, and what is definitely the most remembered thing of this movie is the cans getting shot. And while the "this is all I need" joke is really funny, I just think, to me, that gas station is where it peaks in the best scene, because it is the rapid fire moment of jokes. That is like the
Yeah,
Tommy gun of
yeah.
jokes coming at you.
But what about when he's writing the checks?
Again,
You don't think
I'm
that's
not saying it's
brilliant?
not funny, but that's, I guess we're saying that's two jokes in that scene.
Yeah, you're saying there's a higher volume of jokes at the gas station.
Yes, and I think we just spend more time at the gas station than we do in that moment you're discussing.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah.
that it's a competition.
No, but I hear you. I do love that this movie is a tight 90. You're in, you're out. It's
Yeah, I
it's
guess
fun.
it was that short, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's like 90 minutes. All of a sudden, I mean, it goes so quickly. Like it's over as soon as it starts, and you just like giggle the whole time. There's never a point in the movie where I'm like, oh God, it's dragging. Like, and in fairness, a lot of movies from that time period, especially like in the 70s, they dragged. They didn't give a fuck. They were like, no, we're dragging this motherfucker. And I don't think The Jerk drags in a way that you kind of have to prepare yourself for a little bit of draggage if in a movie from that time period.
It also does, fortunately, and we sort of discussed this already, I think it mostly has aged well. I think there is one joke that aged really poorly. And I think we don't
Agreed.
need to say what joke it is, even. That it's like, if you've seen the movie, you can guess what joke it was.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was the only joke that I thought to myself. So let's just contextualize this for people, because I'm sure not a lot of people have seen this movie. There's a joke that uses the N-word. And essentially, there's a group of guys that are, I guess, making a housing development for Naven.
Well, Steve Martin, Naven has gotten rich enough that he is now, becoming a landlord and starting housing developments, and they're going to be upscale, and they're going to keep unwanted clientele out, is like how they start phrasing it. And he's not understanding it until they get to the point of saying the N-word to him.
Right. So there's a lot of, now, again, we're talking about Steve Martin starting this film by saying, I was raised a poor Black child. So he is not understanding, as they're alluding to keeping away people of color. And it's funny, and there's a lot of innocence and naivete, and then they just straight up say it. And then Steve Martin gets really mad and turns around and calls himself the N-word, and then beats the shit out of them. So
he beats the shit out of them until he tries to kick old Iron Balls McGinty. And once he kicks Iron Balls McGinty, he hurts himself.
Which I think is, again, hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's funny because at first, when they used the N-word, I was like, oh my God, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, we were doing so well. And then when Steve Martin reacted, and he does say it, but that reaction, I was like, you know what? This is not a joke or a scene in the movie that has any sort of like malintent.
I agree, but I still think it is aged poorly. I don't think it's intended to be poorly, but I think the scene works just as well if they use any other term.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? If he's like, we don't want those people here, and he goes, I am those people. You know what I mean?
Or even if they just use the word black.
Yes,
I think it would have been fine.
Literally, the joke works exactly the same that way. It's just, I get that they're supposed to be racist, but it's like, it just feels gross. And
yeah. Well, I think it feels gross too, because it is coming from a time period where like they did use that word. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't a word that like people necessarily didn't use. You know what I mean?
I guess it was less taboo to be used in movies, but it was still, the worst of the worst words. That's why I guess it's meant to be them saying it to him is supposed to be so bad. But
yeah,
it felt like that's the one joke that's like, this goes a little too far. We didn't need this. It makes me think of, there's a movie I love from the 70s that I was shown as a kid, Murder by Death. And it's a parody of, your murder mystery movies. And I remember loving it. And I finally, I tracked it down on DVD and I watched it recently. And I did not realize that Peter Sellers, who is a very white man, is playing like the most stereotypically Asian man. And I'm like, oh, this is so gross. Like,
have you ever seen Breakfast at Tiffany's?
I've seen the clips of Mickey Rooney. Yeah.
Mickey Rooney, really bad. Well, it's funny because I watched this movie essentially alone, because as soon as we started it, Corey fell asleep. So I've got Corey, his head is on my lap, he is snoring, and I'm watching this movie and I'm laughing. And I said to him today before he left for work, I was like, I really wish you would have watched this with me, because I'd really like your take on this. So I explained the joke to him. Not that Corey speaks for all Black people, but it was just interesting to have his opinion. And he was like, I'm probably not the right person to ask about this because like he's always pro comedian and like pro comedy. But he was like, it I don't know. It doesn't bother me. He actually said that his mom loves this movie, which again, doesn't mean anything now because in 1979, it was a very different world, whatever. But I do think that it is like not. I didn't get the feeling that it was malicious. It didn't like make me uncomfortable. I was waiting for the moment where I was going to be like, damn, this movie didn't age well. And I think it just is a joke that uses a word that if they had changed the word, it would have been completely fine.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's malicious, but like you just said, if they just changed the word, we could still do the exact same joke.
Yeah.
I just don't think they would probably make the same choice today, I guess is what we're saying more than anything. And it's the only thing that watching it today, from a movie that starts with Steve Martin saying, I was born a poor black boy. It's the only joke about that like, you're like, oh, that's gross. Because they do make a lot of jokes about that in the beginning, but most of the jokes seem to be making fun of Naven, which it's like, oh, that's fine. Like, they're all having their meal and they go, and here's your favorite meal, Naven, a tuna fish on white bread with mayonnaise. And you're like, oh, that's funny because it's the most boring dinner possible.
Right.
And him not being able to find the rhythm, like, oh, that's funny. That makes sense. It was just the one thing where it was like, oh, that feels a little grosser.
Yeah. You know what's interesting too? I didn't realize this, and I actually don't think I've seen this movie in so many years. The last time I watched it was probably with you, and it was probably on TV, and we probably weren't paying very close attention. But in Rush Hour, Jackie Chan says it. Did you know that?
Yes.
He just referenced that, where he was like, sometimes it's just for comedy. And I was like, huh.
And I get the attempt. And once again, I think we're past that point now. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and I think it's one of those things that, like, if you and I did Rush Hour on this podcast, which that might be a movie we do someday. I feel like we mentioned it before.
Yeah, Corey wanted to do it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be something we could ignore.
Yeah. Agreed.
You know what else I really like during the movie that like locks it down in like a very sweet way is his letters that keep going back to his family and that he keeps sending money. And he's like, this is, $2 I have from work so far. I only had 40 cents to send you this time. And we know that he keeps sending them letters, but it stops saying how much money he's sending. And there is one time where they do a great joke about him trying to get money. And he's at this carnival or fair that he's working at. Once again, going back to our big episode, the confusion amongst the two. But he is talking about his new relationship with, what's her name? Patty? And he's talking about, I may have some extra money for you next week, as Patty has promised me a blowjob. And you're like, oh.
It's like, so funny.
It just works so well. Again, it's one of those things about the delivery that makes it great.
Yeah.
I think this is mostly pretty much just the Steve Martin show. Like 95% of the humor is just coming from him.
Yeah. Although Bernadette Peters, I think, does a really good job.
I think she does a good job playing off of him. I don't think that she is the source of the humor in most of the scenes.
No, and her character is not super funny as it is.
Yeah, I think Jackie Mason, if anything, like, for the few scenes he's in, provides a bit more humor than he does.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember something that he says. I can't remember anything specific that he says. I do remember he says something about the cans where he's like, he's not trying to put holes in the cans. He's trying to put holes in you, like that type of thing.
Yeah. It's so good. It's great. I think his mother did a really good job too. The actress that played his mother.
Yeah, I thought she came off in such a sweet way. She's one of the few people who I like featured in the cast for this time because I was like, there's not many people who matter in this movie.
No. Do you have a lot of facts about this? I'm excited to hear the facts.
I want the truth!
Face the facts, ducks.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
Starting as we usually do with our ratings on IMDb, The Jerk gets a 7.1 out of 10. On the tomato meter, it has an 83% with an average score of 6.9 out of 10, 35 fresh reviews, and 7 rotten. The audience score, 84% with an average score of 4.1 out of 5. The movie had a budget of $4 million, which kind of seems like more than I thought it would be.
Oh, I don't know. Not me, but I don't know anything.
I guess. I don't know. I guess, they have the big house and they do have a lot of extras at time. I don't know.
A lot of cast, yeah.
But the movie grossed $73.7 million worldwide.
Wow. Is that a win?
I mean, you normally want to make 2.5 times your budget or more to start profiting. So let's say 2 times their budget was $8 million. They made close to 10 times that.
Amazing. Good for them.
The movie was directed by Carl Reiner, who also has a cameo in the movie as the bringer of the class action lawsuit for the Optograb, is it called?
Yes.
Optigrab. Carl Reiner also directed The Man with Two Brains, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, and The New Dick Van Dyke Show. The movie was written by Steve Martin, Carl Gottlieb, and Michael Elias, who also wrote Jaws, Head of the Class, Three Amigos, and Only Murders in the Building. Stars Steve Martin as Naven, who you may know from Bowfinger, The Pink Panther, and Roxanne. Bernadette Peters as Marie, who you may know from Anastasia, Mozart in the Jungle, or Pink Cadillac. Catelyn Adams as Patty, who you may know from Panic in Echo Park, The Jazz Singer, and Underworld Awakening. I don't know, that just surprised me that I was like, oh, okay. And finally, Mabel King as the mom, who you may know from What's Happening, The Wiz, and Scrooge.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions. Number one, who was Bernadette Peters in Beauty and the Beast?
I did not say Beauty and the Beast. I said Anastasia, Mozart in the Jungle, or Pink Cadillac.
Okay, well, I'm asking you two questions. Number one, who was she in Beauty and the Beast? And number two, who was she in Anastasia?
I did not say. We're going in circles, Gab. I have no idea if she's in Beauty and the Beast.
No, I think she's definitely in Beauty and the Beast.
You sure about that?
You sure about that? Yeah, I am.
In Anastasia, she plays Sophie.
Interesting. Don't know who that is. We should watch that movie, though. Loved that movie as a kid.
I hated that movie.
What?
Maybe that's my hot take. Yeah, not a fan.
Wow. What the fuck? Okay. Who was she in Beauty and the Beast then?
I don't see her as being in Beauty and the Beast, but she's in Beauty and the Beast, The Enchanted Christmas.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right. All right. All right.
Which
you know
she was
what?
Angelique
I'm
in Beauty and the
confusing.
Beast, The Enchanted Christmas. So thank you for making me divert to that.
Who's the one that sings Wind Beneath My Wings?
Isn't that Bette Midler?
Yes, I'm confusing Bette Midler.
Bette Midler's not in Beauty and the Beast.
Yes, she is.
You want to bet money on it?
Yeah, how much, you stupid fuck?
However much you want, because I'm on IMDb right now and you're wrong. Because I think you're thinking of Angela Lansbury.
I am thinking of Angela Lansbury.
Who could never be mistaken for Bette Midler.
They're all the same. Angela Lansbury, Bette Midler, Bernadette Peters, they are all the same to me.
Okay, well, thank you for this detour into wrongness.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Anyway, this is what I bring to the table for this podcast.
The movie was nominated for a Stinker Award for Worst On-Screen Couple for Steve Martin and Bernadette Peters.
Excuse me?
The critics' consensus? Crude, crass, and oh so quotable, The Jerk is nothing short of an all-out comedic showcase for Steve Martin.
Agreed.
Roger Ebert gave it 2 stars. We get the sense at times that the cast and crew arrived at a location, found the script bankrupt of real laughs, and started looking around for funny props.
Oh, I completely disagree.
From the Variety staff, an artless, nonstop barrage of off-the-wall situations, funny and unfunny jokes, generally effective and sometimes hilarious sight gags, and bawdy non-sequiturs.
I don't entirely disagree with that.
John Show, which I totally read as Jon Snow for a second there, from Time Magazine. Its humor is successful and unsuccessful by turns, and although comedian Carl Reiner is the director, the instinct here is to give most of both credit and blame to Martin.
Okay.
These are more negative than I expect. Brian Costello from Common Sense Media last one, with comedy legend Carl Reiner directing and unforgettable supporting roles from Jackie Mason and Bernadette Peters. The result is an incredible mix of barbed satire, silly pratfalls, and at its core, sweetness.
I agree. Okay, I have 2 more questions. Number 1, did you watch Only Murders in the Building?
I have not.
I couldn't get into it. Number 2, who directed Airplane?
I almost said the Duffer Brothers, and I know that's not wrong, but it's the Zucker brothers.
Oh, why do I always confuse them with Carl Reiner?
David Zucker, Jerry Zucker, and Jim Abrahams were the directors of Airplane.
Yeah, it's the Zucker. How come I always confuse him with Carl Reiner?
Cap, I can't answer that for you.
Okay.
I'm not omniscient. I don't have all answers.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Don't you wish you could Google, like, what's my neighbor's name again? You know what I mean? Like, don't you wish you can Google like personal things?
And the truth is, Google knows that shit. They just don't tell you that shit.
Exactly.
Some fun facts here. The movie was originally titled Easy Money.
No, it's got to be The Jerk.
I think they even realized that. I think I've seen a clip of Steve Martin saying, like, Easy Money, we knew it wasn't that good. It needed a title. Stanley Kubrick was a big admirer of The Jerk. He would often recite lines from the film to cast and crew on his films, and he once invited Steve Martin over so they could play chess.
That's delightful. Do you know how to play chess?
Yeah, not well, but yes. Zach
That's
taught me.
interesting. How did Zach learn?
I don't know.
I never learned. I don't know how.
The horsey can move in an L shape.
Yeah, but how many blocks?
1, 2, 3, 4.
4. It's got to be 4. It can't be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Why the fuck would I have said 4 if it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Gab?
I don't know. I'm just asking. I just need to know the rules. One time Corey's actually pretty good at chess. I wouldn't know. I've never played. But he said, in full sincerity, he looked at me and said, yeah, I'm pretty good at chess. I used to play with the Chinese kids and they were good. And I was like, okay.
Doesn't sound as good as he thinks it does. Moving on. The part where Nathan licks Marie's face during their first date was completely improvised. Bernadette Beater's reaction is genuine.
Love that. I figured as much.
I thought he was going to reference his dog, Shithead, in some way there, but like he just does it, and it's just like, oh, okay.
It's so funny. I love that he names the dog Shithead.
Well, what was the original name? Lifesaver or something like that?
Hero.
And he says, you shouldn't call this dog Hero, you should call him Shithead, and it sticks.
He's like, all right.
Steve Martin and Bernadette Peters were in a personal relationship during production of the movie.
Personal relationship?
That is what it says here. I assume that just means that they were actually dating at the time.
Interesting.
Steve Martin has said his favorite line in the movie is an ad lib when his character is hitchhiking. A man in a truck stops and asks, St. Louis? To which Martin replies, no, Navin Johnson.
So funny. I love that line.
That is a great line because the whole time we know he's hitchhiking to St. Louis and like, it's just so stupid. He goes, no, I'm going to St. Louis. He's like, oh, okay.
Oh, good.
Last thing I have here, Steve Martin plays 2 roles in the movie. He
yes,
plays Navin
I know
Johnson,
this. Yeah.
And we see a person juggling cats, and it's supposed to be like an atrocity, this cat juggler. And I think it's something that if you've seen the movie, you can tell like, oh, that's just Steve Martin with a wig and a mustache.
And a mustache. Yep.
And he is not credited as the juggler. He is billed for the latter as Pig Eye Jackson.
That's so funny.
And that is all the fun facts I have.
That's great. That's great. Well, Dill, I think it's time.
I think you're right, Gab. I think it's mail time.
Mail time? When you control the mail, you control information.
Mom asked me to ask you if there's any mail for us here by mistake.
What?
A bunch of comments on Orange County, all from one person.
Oh,
Our
can I
greatest fan.
guess?
You can.
Scotty Cameron?
That is right. The one and only Scotty Cameron. So the first comment on Orange County, and this was in response to, I guess, did you ask this to me on? I guess you asked this to me on Orange County, but that was really since we recorded it weeks ago. It feels like it's less relevant now. Dylan, you're lucky you don't live in Kansas City like I do, because Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's relationship is inescapable here. It feels like now I hear more about Taylor Swift than I ever did before they started dating. And I'm like, cool, whatever. I don't really care. I hear some people hoping Taylor Swift moves in with Travis Kelce so we can claim Taylor Swift as a Kansas City resident. And I'm like, okay, cool. Dr. Phil, Paul Rudd, Tech Nine, and Joey Wentz are from Kansas City area as is. Interesting.
Can I just give a hot take here? I like Tech Nine.
Who
and I
is
think
Tech Nine?
Tech Nine is like a rapper, but he was also associated with the Insane Clown Posse. And I think people don't like him because he is like a known Satan worshiper, I think is the rumor. But I really like his music.
Whatever. Saying Jesus, take your pick. Neither one's for me. You know?
Yeah, I mean, same. And honestly, like if you make good music, like, okay.
I think I was mixing Tech Nine up with Tekashi 69. Is that a person?
Oh, yeah. No, I think that is a person, but I have no. Tech Nine has this. You probably know the song. It's like this, the type of shit that make the hood go crazy. It's I don't know. It's just really
I don't
fun.
think so, but I want to hear you do the whole album now, Kat.
Okay. Let's do it.
I guess the thing is, my attitude towards Taylor Swift is a combination of Gab's attitude towards buddy cop movies like Hot Fuzz and The Nice Guys, and Peter Griffin's attitude towards The Godfather. Scotty, but since we're all going to die, there's one more secret I feel I have to share with you. I do not care for Taylor Swift's music. Fine singer, do not care for her music. It insists upon itself. It's probably just the fact that I'm a metalhead and pop music isn't my cup of tea. Also, I don't care about That doesn't help. Also, I don't care about celebrity dating gossip, celebrity news. I typically pay attention to is when celebs say something incredibly ignorant or stupid on a political topic. Yeah, I don't really care for Taylor Swift either. I'm not like anti-Taylor Swift. I've heard some of the songs and I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not strongly like, I hate her music. I just don't really care. And as a big NFL fan, I'm like, I don't want this shoved down my throat, down my orifices.
Well, I'll say this. I think Corey does a very good job of explaining this phenomenon and says Taylor Swift doesn't make music for me. And I think Taylor Swift doesn't make music for you or Scotty. So it's fair that you wouldn't really care for it because you're not the target demographic. And I most certainly am. However, I do think it is interesting that Scotty did say he doesn't care about celebrity gossip, but did come on here just to continue to talk about celebrity gossip. So, Scotty, what's up? Also, on the topic of celebrity gossip, I got Britney Spears' book today. It came out today. I pre-ordered it on Amazon, which I know a lot of people are going to give me shit for.
I didn't even know she had a book coming out. Is it like a memoir?
Yeah, it's like her okay, I'm done being quiet. And the whole thing about Justin Timberlake and them getting pregnant and her having an abortion and about how she cheated on him or something like that. I don't know. So it's just all this shit is coming out. Like she never really got to tell her side of the story. And boy, am I excited.
We're getting very gossipy on this episode. I got to tell you, Gab, I want to say I'm not into celebrity gossip and celebrity drama, but I am definitely a messy bitch.
We know.
In high school, I watch TMZ every day. I'm like, I can't deny it. I love celebrity bullshit. I love it.
You do. It's okay. It's good. It's fun. I one of the smartest things Corey ever said. Now I'm quoting him twice, which is a big deal. But he said to me one time, talking shit is a team sport. And it's so true. Like it feels good just to be like, oh my God, can you believe da da da? And like it's harmless when it's not about people that you can really hurt.
If there's anyone you can gossip about, it's celebrities.
Yeah, exactly. It feels good.
Okay, let's get to our next Scotty Cameron quote. Comment. Why did I say quote? I don't know. It feels like I've seen the watch your fingers bit before. Maybe I saw this scene from the movie on TV and then changed the channel when the commercial break happened. At the time, I would have seen that clip on TV and probably thought, oh, this is Jack Black. It's probably dumb. Change the channel. Since then, I've had a bit of a greater appreciation for some of Jack Black's comedy and I've had a few giggles listening to Tenacious D.
Jack Black, to me, I love School of Rock, but I can't really think of any other Jack Black performance that I really love. He, I think, has the same old bit every time.
I don't think so. I think he can do different things, but I think what you're talking about is his most popular movies are all sort of a similar thing.
Yeah.
But I love me some Jack Black. If I see Jack Black appear in the credits, I'm never disappointed by it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
He's always a net neutral or positive.
Okay.
Another Scotty comment on being unhinged on the internet.
Yes.
I feel like the older I get, the less and less I want to appear unhinged on the internet. When I graduated high school, I got pretty unhinged on social media. I was listening to a lot of the Jimmy Dore show back in those days. Once I stopped giving Jimmy Dore the time of day, the less unhinged I acted. Maybe there's a correlation between having conspiracy theories and being unhinged in public spaces. Also, listening to Gab talk about her friend who rants about not knowing what the ingredients are in the food that she eats. I'm someone with food allergies, milk, eggs, tree nuts, and so I've learned to check the ingredients on everything I want to eat. I don't know if Gab's friend has looked at the ingredients tab on a food item because there's a line in bold that allergens, i.e. contains. Oh, there's a line in bold that lists the allergens, whatever it is contains. So she's posting the questions on Instagram asking if something has dairy in it. I take it she hasn't checked ingredients. Just my hunch. I don't follow this person Gab talked about.
Well, number one, she's not my friend. She's just somebody I know whose unhingedness keeps me following her. But I think it's just more of like a cry for my life is so hard. Look at me. Can you believe the person at Starbucks did this to me? Now my whole day is ruined. It's like, enough. Jesus Christ. Also, Dill, listening to that comment, on a scale of 1 to 1,000,000, how grateful are you that we didn't really have social media when we were graduating high school in the way that kids today have it?
Probably about 1,000,000, because if social media was as prevalent, I feel like I would hate myself way more than I did.
Oh, yeah.
I posted so much dumb shit on social media. I was that person who posted depressing song lyrics all the time, and I am so ashamed of myself. Every time Facebook says, you have a memory, I'm like, I don't want it. I would like to forget.
Yep. MySpace was like the thing when we were of high school age. Maybe Facebook had like just come out or was available for wider use.
I
but
got
for the
Facebook
most part,
senior year of high school. Yeah.
yeah, I think same. And Facebook, I mean, I've deactivated my Facebook, honestly. Like, I don't really use it or go on it. I had to reactivate it for something for like an ambassadorship program that I had through social media. But I don't use it. And it's honestly mostly because the memories that come up are haunting. I don't want them.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I only go on Facebook really now because Zach will tag me in something. So I'm like, I'll go look at whatever it was. That's
He's
really
not on
about it.
Instagram, right? How come?
I think he has one. I don't think he uses it.
Oh, okay.
Too newfangled technology for him. All right, let's get on to Scotty's next comment.
Oh my God, he really hit us up.
Yeah, the Mark Wahlberg-led Transformers movies are terrible. I would only watch those looking for a good laugh at just how terrible they are. The only reason I could imagine anyone having a soft spot for the original Transformers, the 2007, is if they're fans of the IP and living in a time when Bumblebee didn't exist and just wanted to say there was a good live-action Transformers movie. Based on everything Dylan has said about Giselle, that's not the case. Maybe it's just the experience of seeing it in the theaters at the right time, or a time heals all wounds thing, and that the first Transformers movie is not as terrible as the fifth Transformers movie. I don't know. To me, anyone trying to argue that Transformers 2007 is the best live-action Transformers movie, I'd kindly show them Bumblebee so they'd see what a good Transformers movie looks like, not that crap where Bumblebee pees on John Turturro. The only movie titled Transformers that I accept hearing as someone's favorite is the 86 animated movie that famously traumatized a generation, including Robert Kirkman, who created The Walking Dead, Invincible, and Void Rivals, and screenwriter behind Renfield, which we never ended up watching.
We did not, but I don't think we missed anything.
I think the deal with Bumblebee, I will just say real quick, is that just a lot less people saw it. I think Transformers 2007 was like one of the biggest movies of the year, and I think Bumblebee, I don't think ever had as big a presence because I've heard it's good. I've never seen it. Gab's
I don't
definitely
know
not
anything
seen it.
about Transformers. Yeah,
She's transforming into someone who does not give a shit. That's what it looks
Yeah.
like.
robots in disguise, but that's about it.
And last comment from Scotty Cameron. I watched the Hunger Games game sketch since Gab mentioned she was in it, and I found it funny. I was 11 years late on watching it because 2012 seemed like the time to do Hunger Games parodies, because I remember videos like How It Should Have Ended Slender Games sketch being big at the time, which just threw Slender Man into the Hunger Games. Now I wonder if there was a Hunger Games parody that crossed over with Saw, because that seems like a huge missed opportunity if that never happened. Hearing Jigsaw host the Hunger Games would be hilarious. There you go, James Strecker. There's your dosage of Saw references. I take it the next episode is him talking about aliens on the show, so I made sure he gets some Saw mentions for a special guest appearance. I'm so sorry to tell you, Scotty, he will not hear that. Maybe he'll listen to this episode because it's in the jerk, so I hope he hears it.
Did you watch the documentary on the Slender Man murders?
I think I did in passing because I think Giselle watched it, so I didn't really prevalent. Like I wasn't focused on it, I would say.
Fascinating.
I did watch. I remember I watched the original Marble Hornets YouTube channel when that really made popular Slender Man. Do you know what I'm talking about? It was this guy who was making like found footage YouTube videos, and that's really what I felt like made Slender Man into a big deal than rather just the creepypasta images it was.
Yeah.
And that shit was scary at the time. I don't know.
Yeah. Creepy pasta, though, it is so insane to think like kids have, like we were just talking about, like kids have access to the internet and they can find these things that like adults are obviously like, this is stupid, but their young minds are so malleable. And then they end up attempting to murder their friends.
Yeah, kids are stupid. And you don't realize how stupid you are until you're older. And then you know you were stupid.
Yeah. And you know you're still stupid. And you're probably always going to be stupid.
You know what my favorite kind of creepypasta is? Chicken Alfredo.
Oh, that was better than I assumed it was going to be.
Thank you. Let's get back to the jerk verdict.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence is death.
Well, Dylan, I will go first since this was my pick. I understand that I may be colored by nostalgia and a love of movies I have quoted growing up with my dad. But I think upon rewatch, this movie really holds up. It is funny, it is sweet, it is charming. It is a tight 90 with a couple of laughs. I think the jokes are funny for anyone, any age, any walk of life. I think it is a quotable and very warm comedy. And so I think it is a movie to watch before you die.
I think it has the one moment that we said feels a little gross and dated. I think I'd only seen it once before, so there's no nostalgia for me really. I think I've only seen it once before. And I don't come away with it being like, oh my God, I'm going to quote so many lines from this movie. But it definitely got like at least 2 real good laughs out of me and some chuckles. And I'm going to give it a soft movie to watch before you die. It is.
Yes. Yes. I'm so happy to hear that. You often come out with all the positivity and the smiles and the and then you're like, that movie was a piece of shit. So I didn't have my hopes up, but
I tried to come out tepid on this movie a little bit. And I guess that didn't go well because I feel like I was still positive the whole time. No, it's definitely really funny. It's sweeter than I thought it would be because in the first like 5 to 10 minutes, I think it's the least funny at the beginning because when it is just doing that one joke of I was born a poor black boy, I'm like, okay, get there. And then the joke is really just about like the stupidity of Nathan Johnson. And once we get there, each time it like worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it does a really good job of having this character who is dim-witted and naive, but not so much that it's unbelievable to think that he would have made it where he made it. Like he just walks that line so well.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a comedic genius. Like he's just brilliant. And I think what they did really well is they kind of just put him in the kitchen and let him cook,
It is funny though, because as much as he's a comedic genius, I think he's made a lot of crap too. But I think in this one, it works like this is him at the height of his powers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think of a movie like the remake of the Pink Panther and I'm like, no, that sucks. Or, there's a lot of more recent stuff definitely from him. Most of the stuff that I feel like that was coming out when we were kids, I feel like was his less esteemed fare.
Yeah, but I also think there's probably a lot of work that he just took for money that like didn't necessarily like he didn't really contribute to. Like a brilliant comedian can take a bad script and make it funny, but only if they're willing to put in that much work. And so if he was just showing up to the studio, doing his job and going home, like we've all done it.
I guess that it doesn't speak well to him if that's your excuse for it. It's like, me saying, well, I think Randy Moss was the best wide receiver, but when he was in Oakland, he didn't like the team, so he just didn't try very hard. And it's like, that's not good. You can't do that.
Yeah. I mean, people are people, and I also think that like, and this is a separate conversation, but I think there comes a level of celebrity where like you just reach a point where you're like, I don't have to try. I'm Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Like you're lucky to have me. Yeah. I've also have we ever heard is he a dick? Have we heard that?
I have no idea whether or not he is a dick.
I hope not.
I hope not as well.
I don't think so because he and Martin Short are truly friends. And I don't think Martin Short would be friends with a dick. Side note, you may remember this. Do you remember A Simple Wish? Martin Short plays the fairy godmother to Matilda.
I have not seen it.
Okay, that was one of my favorite movies growing up. And my first celebrity crush was Martin Short.
I feel like I randomly bring it up all the time. SVU, Martin Short is great in an episode of SVU.
What episode of SVU is he on?
He shows up in the beginning of the episode as a guy he's supposed to be a psychic and he's supposed to be explaining to them how the crime happened. And I don't want to spoil anything because if you got Hulu or Peacock or whatever the fuck, or if you're a pirate or whatever, watch the episode of SVU because he's fucking great in it. And it's like, not
is he
the
funny?
Steve Martin. No.
Oh.
No, not at all. And that's what's great about it. It's the rare time where Martin Short is like super serious and you're like, oh, fuck.
He's good. Yeah. He's really talented.
Also recommend for Martin Short, Inner Space.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. I made Gog type up a letter to him, like a love letter from me. I'm sure it wasn't a love letter, but it was just like a fan letter. And we mailed it to him and he wrote me a letter back.
That is so sweet.
Yeah.
That reminds me of, I remember I once found a email address to Bruce Campbell on like IMDb message boards when that was a thing. And so I tried it. I like wrote an email being like, I just want to tell you, I think you're awesome in this movie, in this movie, in this movie. And I just wanted to say, Hail to the King from Dylan, because that's one of his lines from Army of Darkness. And he wrote back and he was like, Dylan, back at you. Best regards, Bruce. And I was like, this man can do no wrong for me now. He is a legend.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm happy for you.
Yeah. So that's our 2 random interactions now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I love this movie. I think it's great. And I'm really happy that you liked it too.
I'm happy I did too, because I wasn't sure going into it if I would or not.
I picked a winner, Dill. This never happens.
You picked a wiener.
Yes. All right. Do you know what we're doing next week?
I do. We are having a guest next week. James Schrecker from the Watchtower Database is coming on to do a double feature of Alien and Aliens, which you have seen neither of.
No, I haven't. And I'm really glad you reminded me of that because that means I got to watch 2 movies this weekend.
And I got to gather a lot of facts.
Oh, shit. All right. Amazing. Well, I'm excited for that. And I'm happy we agreed. The Jerk.
I am too.
Movie to watch before you die.
Come back
Wrap
next
this
week.
thing up.
Yeah, come back next week. Let's round home now. Subscribe to us on YouTube or subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform, wherever it is. You can find the link tree for us below. If you found us already, you're already listening. Just push some other button. Fuck you. Do it. Come on. Be cool. Don't you want to be cool? Don't you want me to think you're cool? Whatever,
Honestly,
man.
all the cool kids are doing it.
Yeah, and if you just clicked away already, like, whatever, man. I don't need you. Whatever. But thank you so much for listening. And if you are still here listening, send us a comment. Leave us a voice note. You can send us a comment at movies2watch@gmail.com or send us a voice note at Gab.
Anchor.fm/movies to watch. Except you said you can send us a comment at the email.
Yeah, you can
send us an email at the email. Comment in the comments, email in the emails.
Email to movies2watch@gmail.com. Put a comment on YouTube. Put answer our poll in Spotify. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of shit you can do. And we will talk
interact
about
with
it.
us.
Yeah, so you know what? Gab's Instagram is in that link tree. Send her a DM. Say what's up.
Don't do that. No, you could do that.
Send her a Venmo, and then she'll definitely read it.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
What's the least you can Venmo?
I don't know. Probably a penny.
Send Gab a nickel, and she'll read whatever you tell her.
Please.
All right. Thank you for listening.
We out.
Looks good to me, sir, but I'd like your opinion.
Damn these glasses. Well, it looks good to me, too. Hurry up, son. Time's a-wasting. I'm going to the John. Don't forget to check those tires. Damn these glasses, son.
Yes, sir. I damn thee.